Hey everybody, welcome back to Video Game Esoteric and a continuing series, Survival Horror Sanctuary, where I take a look at some of my favorite rare, obscure survival horror games of all time. Today we're taking a look at a really interesting one, and that is Martian Gothic Unification. This is survival horror, but it has a very big twist. This is more puzzle-oriented than it is combat-oriented. If you really enjoyed the puzzles in Resident Evil versus the combat, Martian Gothic is definitely going to be a game that you're going to fall in love with, because it is so different than traditional survival horror, but it still has a lot of the tropes and gameplay mechanics that is kind of the best of both worlds. Before we get too far involved, do me a huge favor, go down below, hit like, subscribe, that notification bell definitely helps us out. And if you feel so inclined to want to support the channel, we got a Patreon link down there as well. But Martian Gothic is a game that came out both on PlayStation 1 and PC, and I am playing this on a PlayStation 1 copy right now. But it is a very interesting game because it takes all the core puzzle mechanics from something like Resident Evil, and it makes a game around them. You're going to have 3 different playable characters that you can play as, and you just swap by pressing select, and you need to use all 3 of them to progress during the game. It's a very similar mechanic to Resident Evil 0, except there is no cooperative AI involved. You're controlling all 3 characters whenever you want, so being able to switch back and forth without depending on any CPU-controlled AI is a big benefit. And right off the top, it basically tells you what the entire game is going to be about. You cannot get through the airlock door until you communicate with your compatriots. You find your radio in the helmet, and then you're able to communicate, and you can continue on into the game. So the game is postmarking right at the beginning that this is more puzzle-oriented. So if you're into puzzle games, you're definitely going to enjoy this. It does have tank controls, and when you get to items that you can interact with, you're going to get a drop-down menu. So it's almost like a point-and-click adventure game, except you have full control, very similar to something like Grim Fandango, where items get highlighted. But I love the situation and setting of this game. You're on a Mars station, you've been sent as a rescue party, something has gone wrong, and it is now your job to figure out what happened. It's a great setup for pretty much any sci-fi horror, survival horror game, and Martian Gothic does a great job of using it to its advantage. Unfortunately, the tank controls are pretty tanky in this game, I would say more so than some other games I have played, but you're going to get used to it relatively quickly, and it's going to kind of blend into the background. But as soon as we go through this door here, we're going to get our first true taste of horror. There's a corpse on the ground, and the space station is going to be littered with them. You can search each and every one of them. Not every corpse will have something, but you're going to get a lot of key items from searching those corpses. If your character searches and shrugs, that means there is nothing there. But as we move on further into the game, some of those corpses might start moving and might come alive, but I will say combat is to be avoided in this game. If you can run past something, if you can avoid it, that's 100% going to be what you want to do, because you are the weakest person on this space station. Combat should be a last resort when your back's up against the wall and you can't avoid what's coming towards you. Otherwise, you want to use more exploratory tactics and use the puzzle solving element to progress in the game. And you'll see here there's a lot of different hatches and other features on the walls. We got a little power up there for our health. You always want to be searching things, and they're all keystoned with lit up lights or other shimmers. So it's not one of those games that we've shown already on the channel where you have to bump blindly into every single wall pressing the action button hoping to find something. If you miss something in Martian Gothic, it's because you weren't looking closely enough and you missed it. But I do love the fact that everything's wood paneled on the space station. I'm not sure if they're going to spend a lot of money to send wood into space, but honestly, this game takes place in 2019 and it's 2022, so we're 3 years past date on it anyway, and we haven't even gotten to the planet. But the voice acting is great. It's actually not bad, but some of it's a little cheesy. Take a listen to this. It's pretty fun.
What the hell stopped my watch? 48:64? 64 minutes past 48 o'clock? You gotta be kidding.
It's definitely a fake Southern accent, there's no question about that, but it's not the worst I've ever heard, and I would say that there actually is a lot of good voiceover in this game, so much so that it's probably the best voiceover on any PlayStation 1 survival horror game that I have ever played. That's not to say it's the best compared to modern times, but it is still relatively effective and good. What we're doing here on the second floor is we need to find an item that we can send down with that pneumatic tube to the original character so we can continue to move on. And this keypad is going to ask us for a password, and it's where our watch stopped. And I think that's a really interesting puzzle. He indicates that his watch stopped at a certain time, and that time is on the top of the screen, but it really isn't telling you that's what you would use for the password. You kind of have to suss that out, and that's what I mean when I call this survival horror puzzle. Not everything is going to be logically explained to you, but the puzzles are all fair. There's nothing so esoteric like an old LucasArts or Sierra adventure game where you're not going to understand what the solution meant whatsoever. Once you figure it out, you're going to feel like you did something intelligent. But now as we move back to the other floor that we were previously on, we can get that green key tag from the pneumatic tube. We're able to go someplace we weren't able to before, and it is quite grim and gruesome. You're going to see that there is a dead corpse on the toilet, and as we walk up to it, we're going to get a really nice view of his last moments with blood scattered along the wall, and we're going to find the purple key tag there. That's what this game is all about, is getting different keys, getting different passwords to access different areas of the space station. As we come around the corner here, there's just things that you can interact with that'll become more important later, but you're not quite sure yet. Anytime that it says use dead body or use something, that means that you can use an object in conjunction with it to make something else happen. We come over here to this tanning bed, and we don't have anything we can do with it now, but you see that it does say use, and that's going to be the indicator that anything with the use icon is going to be something that you're going to have to solve as a puzzle to be able to progress further in the game. Now, the one complaint I do have is some camera angles are blind. If you didn't play this game before and didn't know there was a set of lockers behind that wall, you could almost imagine that wall just ended right there. So definitely be a little careful and check around and see what's going on. But this game is just weird. You come through this door and there's a floating corpse, and our character says that they can hear them talking in their own minds. There is some telepathy undertones going on here. Kind of reminds me of PlayStation 1 and Psycho Mantis, except a little more stationary and a little less boss-like. But Martian Gothic is just doing that all the time. It's always showing you something grim or gruesome, and it is quite effective for a PlayStation 1 game. I would say the graphics definitely aren't the best I've ever seen before, but I've also seen a lot worse. But as we come in here into the bedroom, we have another corpse on the bed, and we're solving more puzzles, and that's what I really enjoy. I love adventure games, I love puzzle games, and I love survival horror games, and when we're able to take those genres and mash them together, and the developers were effective with it, it is great. Because if you remember earlier in the video, I picked up a recording from a corpse on the ground, and this computer is now asking for a password. If we use that voice recording that also gave a story I didn't show to you to not spoil anything, we can now unlock the computer, and this voice is actually great, so listen.
It's Haraway. Listen, Alan. It's too late to evacuate. I don't know if you're receiving this. Communications are breaking up. They opened up that on your orders. It was a Pandora's box. All the eagles of old Mars flew out, but Pandora found a solitary gift in the box. Hope. I doubt there's any hope on cold Mars. There are people clumping together. Time in the rock. You should designate Mars a quarantine planet, but I know you won't. If you send a manned craft, warn the crew. Stay alone. Stay alive. And
Okay, Martian Gothic, that is just some great voice acting. I give it 10 out of 10 marks as far as PlayStation 1 voice acting is concerned. But you'll see we're now able to open up another door on another floor, allowing another one of our characters to enter into the space station. And when we do that, the zombie rises off the bed. And I will tell you, if a zombie is coming towards you and you have a way to escape, just run away. They will be trapped in that room. This game is not about combat. This game is about surviving while solving puzzles. And that's what I love about it so much, because it is wholly unique. I can't think of another survival horror game that basically made combat non-essential and detrimental to your overall success. But this game can be quite disturbing too. As you come through this door here into this gymnasium and walk forward, there is just a corpse swaying back and forth on a noose. We're not sure if they hung themselves, we're not sure if a monster hung them, but it is quite disturbing imagery, and it is extremely effective. I've only shown you guys the, first maybe 30 minutes of Martian Gothic here. There's so much more involved in the game, and this is absolutely an outstanding thing you should check out. But leave me a question or comment down below. I'm curious, have you ever heard of Martian Gothic before? Have you played it? Are you interested in playing it after this video? Because I promise you, if you take the time to deal with the tank controls and get back into the PlayStation 1 swing of things, you're going to find an absolute ton to love with Martian Gothic. It's a great game and I highly recommend it. Bye-bye.